Hey guys, what's up? Alec Torelli here. I am in the Hustler live stream room, about to go live to do some commentary for the pregame show, and then play 25, 50, 100 with 100 ante, probably a 200 straddle, playing some poker. I'm 0 for 2 my last 2 sessions on the Hustler. I'm down like 85,000.
But Ace King wins it. Wow.
And I think it's really important in situations like these just to focus on the quality of your decisions and not the outcome. And if the quality of your decisions are good and you're losing, that's variance. That's normal. That's a part of poker. Really important to keep the mindset up and just your aggression up and play your game. I feel like I definitely have made some mistakes. Don't get me wrong. 10 hours poker, I made some mistakes. But at the same time, I feel like I'm playing winning poker and I need to keep doing what I'm doing. And then the results will manifest themselves over time as I put in the hands, put in the volume, keep sticking to my strategy and finding my spots. So I'm still confident, still focused on my game. I'm really excited to break down all the hands for you. Hustler stream starts now.
$51,900. This is 51 and this is the 900.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bring me a whole bunch.
I'll bring you a lot more back.
Okay.
All right, guys, as a thank you for your attention, love, and support throughout the years and your positivity, I'm going to be selling 10% of my action in this week's upcoming Hustler stream on Wednesday on StakeKings.com. So here's what I'm doing. People that subscribe to my newsletter at ConsciousPoker.com are always going to get first access. This stream and potentially future upcoming streams where I sell action. Opt into ConsciousPoker.com. It's totally free. I'll be sending out a newsletter at least 24 hours, hopefully ahead of time, of any social media content or YouTube video I put out. For this week, you can check the link in the description below, and there's more details to buy a piece of me on StakeKings.com. Again, I'm only doing 10%. It's first come, first serve. And my goal is to sell this to as many people as possible. So nobody's going to be able to buy more than 1% of my action. That way, as many of you as possible can get a piece of me. So click the link below and excited for this week. Obviously, be smart, be responsible. Know that I could lose. It's poker. Only invest what you can afford to lose and be responsible. And thank you for your attention. And let's get into this week's vlog and the hand review.
All right, diving into the session here, guys, I'm going to show you a mixture of big, exciting all-in hands and the small nitty-gritty hands, because my goal is to show you that it's not only the big hands and the coolers that make up the results of your session, but all the accumulation of the compounding of the quality of your small decisions. And I really want to highlight those because people tend to get caught up with these big exciting hands, and that's kind of what I tell clients is like, look, that's like the highlight reel watching an ESPN game. Sure, it's cool to see the slam dunks and the 3-pointers and all that stuff, but the reality is that you win the game because of inches and the small decisions that you make over time. And so I'm going to show you that in this video here. So anyway, we're starting off with a big hand because that's how my session started. I had queens. I just been losing a lot of hands in 3-bet pots, and things weren't going my way. That's poker, right? But it's important to keep up your aggression and not change your game plan unless there's a reason to. And I felt like I've been doing everything right. It's just the cards weren't going my way. So anyway, Pepe makes it 300, and this is my second time with queens. I lost the first one, I think, and I 3-bet the 1300. He calls, and we go heads up to the flop. It comes 10, 10, 7 with 2 clubs, and now he takes this unorthodox play and sort of sheepishly leads into me for 2100. Now with my stack size here, it's very convenient to raise because I'm not that deep, but even if I were 50k deep, which I will be later in the session and you'll see, I still would raise here because I just don't think that he's leading with a 10. I think most of his 10s are going to check and then call to trap, or check and then raise. So when he leads this flop here, I'm doing what's called discounting, meaning I'm removing that hand from the types of hands that he can have just because I didn't. My read, number one, my intuitive, physical read was that he wasn't that strong. And number two, just synthesizing this process through what I call a hand range funnel, which is the method I use to hand read and teach to clients and students. I'm eliminating that hand because I just don't feel like he's actually going to be betting this flop with a 10 because it's going to want to check raise. So that's how I think about hand reading, and I decide to raise here to 6,000 because I think most of the time here he's going to have one of 2 types of hands. Number one, the most common hand is a draw. I want to charge draws to realize their equity by raising here and forcing them to put more money in the pot when they're behind. Or he can just jam. Maybe I have ace king and he doesn't believe me and he has 12 outs with something like this hand, and he just jams it in here.
What'd you help me high?
10,500.
Pepe, though, with a huge draw. Is he going to put him in?
I think I leave myself enough chips behind that he could potentially think I'm bluffing and jam. He also might have a hand like a 7 or 8s or 9s or jacks that want some protection, and those hands are going to bet and then jam facing a raise as well. So those are the two types of hands I put him on. Most likely, I think this is a draw, just the speed with which he called the flop and the way he's playing this. I really think it's something like a flush draw. Maybe something like 8-9, but you know, something like a Jack-9 of clubs, something like what he has, frankly.
16,000, just about going to the turn. Pepe looking for help. That's not help.
And he now decides to check the turn. I have less than a pot size bet left, but I want to emphasize, even if I were deeper here with 80K, I would still be betting this turn just because I really don't put him on a 10, and I really want to protect my hand, and I want to charge him for draws. So I would be betting, you know, even if I wasn't all in here, I would be betting about 10,000 on this turn into 15, 16,000. And I think he would call me with his outs, and that would be a way to charge him for these draws. So anyway, I bet all in here at this point. I think about it for a second. Just want to make sure I got my read correct. And now Pepe goes in the tank. Watch this.
Monster. Oh.
What do you need?
Straight flush.
Oh, shit. He said straight flush.
Full house is good now.
8-9 club.
Ah!
Once or twice?
I'll tell you after you make your hand. It's after you make your decision, sorry. I just make your decision. I don't want to affect it.
I don't have 8-9. For sure I have 8, 9-6, and then 8. Impossible that. Like
9-6 clubs, yeah. Okay, still straight flush.
You weren't lying. Straight flush.
you have queens, kings. Let me see everywhere.
You fold?
Fold.
He folds, tips the dealer for the river.
Go twice. Go twice. See what happens.
You win, you
Brick,
win.
brick, good fold,
Yeah,
Pepe.
I win.
After some fun table talk with Pepe, he ultimately folds. It is the right fold. Good job, Pepe. Nice fold. And I take myself down. A nice pot. Okay, so this hand, of course, you're going to want to know about. There's a $200 straddle. I make it 600 in the cutoff with King 10 offsuit. Very standard open here. And Vertucci to my left makes a 3-bet to 2,000. And then it's over to Brown Balla, Ishan in the middle blind, who opts to cold call here. Unorthodox play. Usually don't see people here cold calling. I put him on a pretty strong hand at this point. I don't think he's, you know, he's not like a crazy loose spazzy player that's cold calling with random 2 cards. I put him on a decent hand. It kind of looks like he has what he has, something like ace jack, ace queen suited, ace king queen suited, maybe 9s, 10s, jacks. He has those types of hands in this spot in my opinion. I make a call here pre-flop. I'm closing the action. I'm not in love with this spot, but it's basically just a pot odds thing. Like there's 5,000 in the pot. I'm calling 1,400. I'm getting a really good price, and I'm in position against Ishan, so that's also a good spot. Flop comes ace, jack, 5, rainbow. Ishan checks. I check in flow over to Vertucci, which, you know, him and I are both going to be checking here pretty much 100% of the time. Kind of a standard spot. Vertucci now comes out with a bet. And I think here he's going to be betting a little bit tighter and a little bit bigger than normal. Like, I don't think he's betting any 2 cards here, like 7-8 suited, just because Ishan cold called, and this board hits quite a bit of Ishan's cold calling range. Like, if Ishan has jacks, he hit ace queen, ace jack, ace king, ace 10 suited. Even king queen might float here. Pocket queens might call. So, like, I think a lot of hands here are this is not a great board to bet. I'm also in the pot. I could have ace jack or pocket jacks or something like that. So when Vertucci bets here, I don't think it's a bluff that often, and I put him on something like what he has. And then when Ishan calls, that's actually really good for me because I'm drawing, right? So Ishan calling 2,500 here. Now I know one of these players has a very strong hand, right? Like the scenario where Vertucci's betting with air and Ishan is calling with like a jack is just not likely here. If you look at, the analysis we did and the types of hands they have, it's much more likely that, Vertucci's betting with ace king and, Eshan is calling with ace queen or ace jack or pocket jacks. And so I know one of them has at least ace queen and the other one has that probably beat. And so this is actually a good spot for me to draw. When you're drawing to a gut shot and the nuts, you need a lot of implied odds, because I'm only going to hit my hand 1 out of 12 times on the turn. It's not that often. So when I do hit, I need to be able to win a big pot. And this is one of those spots where the types of hands my opponent has, the types of hands my opponents have are very strong. And so therefore there's asymmetry to the upside, meaning if I hit my hand, I'm likely to get paid. And that's really what I'm looking for in a spot like this when I'm drawing to the nuts. I am also getting a very good price. The pot is 11,000 or more, and I'm only calling 2,500. So the risk reward is very good. You want to look for spots in poker where you can risk a little, and if you hit your hand, you have the nuts and you can make a lot. That's basically how the risk reward asymmetry of poker works. Boom, I do get lucky in this spot. I hit a queen on the turn, but analyzing all these things, this was the spot to draw. Eshan checks. I check again, and I think people here are like, oh, why don't you lead? There's a flush draw out there. There's a lot going on the board. It's just a weird spot to lead with all the types of hands I have. And I think it's important to make your hand look like the opposite of what it is. If I lead here, it kind of looks strong, right? I'm leading into these two very strong hands. I mean, Vertucci could have 3 aces. You can have 3 queens. You can have 3 jacks. Eshan could have ace queen, ace jack, 3 jacks, right? So like leading into those potential hands is super, super strong, and it's very weird. So I think it's better here just to check like I would do if I had king queen or queen 10 or like ace 10 suited or whatever. I'm gonna check with all of those hands. So I think it makes a lot of sense here to check with this as well. Also, if Vertucci actually has something like he has ace queen, ace jack, pocket jacks, pocket queens, pocket aces, he's obviously going to bet. Why would he check? Of course he's going to bet. He's supposed to bet. And then I squeeze Eshan, who's in the middle. So you want to think about the flow of the hand as well. If Vertucci bets and it's on Eshan doesn't know that I have the nuts. He knows I can have a lot of hands, right? It's not like I'm only calling the flop with king 10. I could call the flop with all the other hands we talked about. I could have king queen. I could have queen 10. Those hands are not good on this turn. So is not just going to fold a strong hand on this turn because he's really mostly worried about Vertucci, right? But if I come out leading and then Vertucci calls, now Eshan might just fold his hand. So I sandwich Eshan in here, and I force him to either call or raise with the types of hands that he can have here in this spot. Eshan calls 6,000, and at this point, I know raising looks pretty strong here, but I know that one of them have it. At least one of them have a very strong hand. I think it's very, very unlikely that nobody has 2-pair or better here. If you think about the types of hands they have on the flop and how they interact with this turn, plus the fact that they're both betting, it's just very likely someone has 2-pair or a set here. And I only have 20K behind. So if I'm up against a set or, a pair and a flush draw, something like Jack 10 of hearts or something, I don't want to let those hands draw for free. I want to force those hands to put all their money in on the turn. And I also don't want a scare card to come. So I think I have a pretty easy jam here in this spot. And I also think, people are like, oh, why do you buy in 25K in these spots? And it's like, in a lot of situations in poker, and you're going to see this later on in the video, there are situations where having less actually gets you more action because people are forced to put money in the pot against you in worse spots because you don't have as many chips. If I had 50K here and I jammed, Vertucci might fold 2-pair with Eshan behind him. Or if I make it 22,000, now he's not committed. He doesn't have one decision to just call all my all in here. He might actually fold. So I think in this spot, in certain spots in poker, you're going to see this later in the video, having less actually gets you more action and allows you to like gain higher edges in certain spots. It goes both ways. There's certain spots where being deeper is better, but it's not like this easy sort of decision where like always being the deepest is the best situation. It depends on the game. It depends on the players. I won't belabor it and go into more detail, but that's kind of, one of the things to consider here in a spot like this. So I jam. Vertucci's in a terrible spot here. He's getting, he has Eshan behind him who might have 3 jacks. Like Eshan might have him beat. It's not a non-zero possibility. Eshan might have pocket queens, maybe, like he just got super coolered on the turn. But I could have, maybe king jack of hearts, maybe jack 10 of hearts, maybe ace jack I show up with here. Like, what am I going to do with ace jack? Just fold? It's a tough spot for Vertucci.
Nick in the tank. Thinking, what does he beat? Can Alec be bluffing? Puts the money in.
How much is it?
I take this
Pot's
back.
60,000 now. Brown baller.
I don't blame him when he calls here. He's also just getting a really good price. Even if he knows I have a really strong hand, I mean, he's calling 14K to win 45K. So it's just a pot odds sort of thing, which is also why I jammed. I knew that 2-pair really can't fold here in this spot. That said, I would need to be jamming worse hands than ace queen for him to justify calling here. If I only have jacks, fives, or a straight, then he could fold, but I might have more hands than that, and this puts him in a very tough spot. He ultimately calls. Ishan gets out of the way. We opt to run it twice, and it breaks both times. I scoop myself a nice pot. Now I'm up to 50K.
60,000 just about going Alec Torelli's way. Big comeback from last week.
If you like the process I go through of analyzing these hands and breaking them down step by step in a very easy, linear to follow process, head over to consciouspoker.com, CONSCIOUS poker.com. Download my free hand reading system. It's the exact process I use in every hand that I play, and I've taught to thousands of clients and students as well. So download it. It's totally free. You'll also be subscribed to our newsletter, which we send out free poker content, strategies, and tips on a weekly basis. And confident those things will help you take your game to the next level. We also have a membership, which is a linear step-by-step program with courses and videos, hand reviews, breakdowns from me that walk you through how to build your game from the ground up. It's one of our premier products at Conscious Poker. You can check that out as well at consciouspoker.com. Super confident that's going to help you on your journey. And thanks for your attention. Let's keep going. All right, this hand kicks off super interesting spot, and I'm going to highlight some of the unique things you can do in a hand to really find ways to maneuver. And I think these are some of the subtle strategies and the nuances of the game that can really help you reach that next level. So we have a limp from Francisco to with 100 in anything on +1. I make it 400 with pocket sixes. Henry on the button, aggressive player, makes it 1100, and it folds back around over to Pepe, who cold calls. So he calls 2 raises cold in the middle blind to 1,000. I have a very easy call here with sixes. My hand plays very well, and I really love this spot. Closing the action, guaranteed to realize my equity and see this flop. So the board comes down ace, 3, deuce. What's the standard play here, right? Pepe checks. Henry's the pre-flop, 3 better. I'm out of position against him. What's the standard play? It's to check, right? But, and this is where things get really interesting, I decide to lead here. The nuances of this lead are that Henry is in between Pepe and me, and this puts him in a tough spot. And so just check how this hand plays. This is something where I'm actually don't want to share all of this strategy publicly, because these are spots where people are not exploiting, but I just want to show you the hand. The hand was streamed. You can see the results, but if you want to know more about how this spot actually plays, check out our membership. I review this entire hand in the Conscious Poker membership at the description, in the link in the description below, and you can see me break down this hand, why I do what I do, how I'm finding ways to maneuver through these pots and win money without the best hand, and actually force people to put money in with a worse hand. So look at what happens here. I lead 1,200. Actually, Henry is in a really tough spot with jacks, and he ends up folding jacks.
Gets jacks to fold. It's the best hand to fold and the worst hand to call. Alec.
He's one short. Yeah.
And Pepe behind me actually calls with a worse hand. So I'm getting a better hand to fold and a worse hand to call. As played, Pepe calls. The turn goes check, check. The river goes check, check. I win myself a nice pot.
Henry's not going to like seeing that. He's probably just as surprised as I am.
All right, this is another really cool hand where I find my way to maneuver through it. And unconventional play here where I think hopefully highlights some of the ways to find edges in these games that other people really aren't taking advantage of. So we have a limp from Francisco. I make it 500 in the hijack with 10-9. Pepe again coming in the middle blind, and Francisco calling as well. The flop comes jack 10-4 rainbow. It gets checked to me, which is pretty standard. I'm in position with middle pair and no kicker. Not no kicker, but you know, if someone has a 10, they probably have a better 10. So in this spot, I actually like to check behind. I'm going to check here with a lot of air. It's you have to have much stronger hands to bet in three-way pots, and this hand doesn't play that well as a bet. I much rather bet here with a bluff like king-queen than with a 10, just because when I get called with a bluff, I'm probably in a better spot than when I get called with a 10. I have a lot more equity, and I could get a 10 to fold, whereas in my spot, if a 10 calls me, I'm very far behind. So I check behind, playing some pot control, playing, some trapping, potentially, in this spot. So the turn comes a 8, bringing a flush draw. Pepe now makes a small lead of 800, and Francisco calls quickly. And in this spot, again, thinking about just the last hand we saw with the pocket sixes, what's the standard play here? You have a pair and open-ended straight draw. You're getting, you're calling 800 to win a pot of, 3,200? You're getting 4-1. What's the standard play? It's to call. But in this spot, I found a tricky, unconventional move and went for a raise to 3,400. Now, I want you to think for yourself, what does this play do? If you want me to break this down and how to utilize these unconventional plays to get your desired results, again, check out the membership. These are plays where, you could see me make them on TV, but if you want my entire insight, it's just not something I'm talking about publicly. So, as a result of this play, we get Pepe to call with a draw, and we get Francisco to fold the best hand. So in this spot, what's supposed to happen is I'm supposed to call, the pot's going to be 4K on the river, and the river is going to come an ace. It's going to go, bluff from Pepe, and Francisco's going to fold. I'm going to fold, or it's going to go check, 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 and I'm going to lose a 4K pot. Instead, what happened is I raise the turn. I get a worse hand to call. The pot is now 9,000, and I get a better hand to fold. And then on the river, it comes an ace. He checks. I bluff. And Pepe ends up folding this hand. Of course, I wanted to bet just in case he had something like a 10x of hearts or a jack x of hearts. I didn't want him to call or check, check. I didn't want the river to go check, check and him to win with a hand like queen jack or, king 10 of hearts or something like that had showdown value. So I turned my hand into a bluff on the river. He ends up folding. And instead of losing a 4K pot, I win a 9K pot. So there's a 13K delta there just from this one unconventional raise on the turn.
Alec wins another one off Pepe. These two have been battling all night. Unfortunately for Pepe, things have gone Alec's way.
So again, if you want to see me implement this strategy and how you can actually do it in your own game and walk you through the exact strategy behind this raise and these unconventional plays, check out our membership in the description below. Let's move on. All right, the hand you want to see, I believe there's a 200 straddle in this hand, so it's not 200. Yeah, it's 200 to call. So Tal opens under the gun plus 1 to 800, and on a 200 straddle, I of course have aces. Very easy 3-bet here to 3,200. Vertucci now with the ace 5 of hearts and a 17K stack decides to go for it. He piles it in here, and frankly, it sandwiches Tal. And Tal is in a terrible spot. Even if Tal has jacks, he can't really do much with me behind him when we're this deep, and I could have aces, kings, or queens. So Tal's folding almost always. And, if I'm bluffing, this just gets through, and Vertucci picks up a 5K win, risking 17K. If he's called, look, I have aces here, and I'm obviously going to call. But if he's called by, queens, he still has 33% equity. So it's not like drawing dead even if I do have queens and call. So it looks bad in this spot when Vertucci's shoving into queens and aces. But if you look at the math and you look at the types of hand he has and how his hand plays against these other hands and how he forces Tal to be in a really tough spot here, it's not bad. I understand the reason behind the shove. Obviously, it looks bad in this spot, again, when I have aces and just snap call and Tal has queens. It's terrible shove. But don't be results-oriented. Think about all the types of nuances in the math. It is on the looser side. The book probably says fold here, but I could see the reason behind the shove, right? So Tal, this is kind of a crazy spot because, yes, we're 45K deep, but I could be bluffing here pre-flop. It's not like I only have aces when I 3-bet, right? I hope you guys know that. And so, Tal folding queens here is actually kind of a bad beat for me because I feel like he's supposed to just cold call. I'm supposed to call behind him or jam over him and somehow stack him. But amazing fold by Tal. Well done. Maybe he had a read. That is a very, very sick fold here. Even, of course, Christian Soto, the commentator, was shocked as well. And I think you guys are too. That's a pretty big fold here with queens, given the spot.
Oh my God.
How did he do that?
Yeah,
Excuse me?
but shit.
Maybe a jack.
Call 17.
Excuse me?
A lot of money.
A lot of trips to Mexico.
A lot of trips to Mexico.
Fuck.
I can be there 17 days in a row. 1,000 a day.
Sick fold.
Anyway, I call with aces, and we opt to run it twice. again, I'm running well here. I scooped this one, and obviously just, you know, things lining up for me to get shoved into. Anytime you get shoved into when you have aces, there's an element of luck, right? So, of course, I'll take it. Happy to play the pot, happy to scoop, and win myself a nice pot, and I'm off to the races up 30K.
I would have paid you 20K and taken your cards. You would have had to pay 40 because he would have shoved after he called.
All right, last hand of creative poker here. I am in the hijack, mixing it up with a 6-3 suited. Again, playing looser in this game. My VPIP was about 35%. I played 35% of hands, which isn't crazy, but I'm not sitting here playing 15, 20% of hands. I want to have fun on the stream. I want to get invited back. I want to play hands. I want to mix it up. And we're 8-handed too, so I can play a little bit more hands. I'm confident in my post-flop game. So anyway, I like playing more hands than probably I would in a different poker environment. I mix it up with 6-3. Tall calls in the middle blind. Francisco calls in the big blind. The flop comes 7-7-4 rainbow. I flop a gut shot with no showdown value, so I decide to bet 600. A pretty small bet here, which allows me to bet more hands, and I think it keeps the types of hands I have wider. Also, this is a very dry board, so if someone has Jack 10, they're going to fold to a $600 bet. I don't really need to bet 1,500 here or 2,000 here. It's kind of just inefficient. Tall calls, which I put him on like pretty much what he has, maybe ace high, maybe a mid pair. Francisco makes this weird, not necessarily weird, but just this smallish sort of raise to 1,800. And at this point, what I can say is I read him as not super strong. And so instead of just calling here and, you know, realizing my equity, trying to hit a 5, trying to hit a backdoor, or playing the hand in position, or just folding, right? Like I have tall behind me, and Francisco's repping a 7. I made it 5,400. I made a raise here, a 3x raise over Francisco. I forced tall out of the pot with a hand like what he has, 5s, 6s, you know, ace high, whatever. He folds right away. He basically can't call unless he has a 7 facing 2 ranges that could potentially have 7s. He pretty much can't do anything, even if he thinks, you know, Francisco's bluffing and I'm bluffing, which is unlikely that we're both bluffing, but he basically can't do anything without a 7. And so Francisco's in a pretty bad spot, right? We're 50K deep. He's out of position. I'm repping a 7. Like, I could easily have a 7. I would play a 7 this way too. What am I going to do with a 7? Call and let tall call on a draw and like let them both realize their equity for free? No, I'm going to raise with a 7. So anyway, this is a spot where I got creative and I made it 5,400. Francisco is in a very bad spot with a 4. Credit to him for even thinking about it on this turn. I think this is a pretty insta-fold. Maybe he had, you know, he was getting up to something, or he thought I was weak or whatever. So that's kind of, you know, we're trying to both level each other and outplay.
Does fold. Nice play, Alec. Alec's had a good showing tonight.
But anyway, he ultimately ends up folding, which is totally standard here. I think he has to fold, and I earned myself a nice pot. Again, it's a, you know, 10K pot here that I earned. Just you know, getting creative with my play. So I hope you enjoyed this. I'll leave you my raw thoughts after this video. Subscribe to this channel. I'm putting out more content for myself on The Hustler. I will be back next Wednesday as well. And again, head over to consciouspoker.com, more free content. Stay tuned when I host meetup games in SoCal as well. I hosted one in Vegas, put out a vlog about it, and I will host one in SoCal in the near future as well too. I'd love to come connect and meet with you guys as well. So thank you for support. Check out my raw thoughts.
All right, final results. I won $34,125 on the stream. It's great to book a win, especially after my last 2 losses. And I want to thank you guys so much for the support and constant positivity and good messages and faith that I can do it. Overall, I think, you know, without watching the stream, just my impression, my intuition of my game this session, I think I did play my best in this session out of the 3. I'm not saying that because I won. I think if you watch this vlog for a long time, you see my content, you'll know sometimes I win and I'm not happy with my play. Other times, like even in past streams, I lost and I was still felt positive about my play and my expectation. I definitely want to review some of the hands. There's a lot of interesting spots, and now that I'm playing regularly with these players, I'm starting to make these very nuanced adjustments, and I think in this vlog, I have the hands that I reviewed. You probably saw some of those weird sort of unconventional plays that actually worked out. And that's because over time, I think what happens is I really understand how people are playing and what level they're on and how they play certain types of hands in their range. And I'm able to kind of counter adjust those strategies. Hopefully you saw that here tonight and it worked out in my favor. I'll be back on the stream soon. Thanks for your attention. I'll be back on Wednesday of next week, so be sure to subscribe for that. And I'm going to host a meetup game in SoCal too, so subscribe at consciouspoker.com. I'll be sending out a newsletter to people who want to meet up for a game as well. You guys are amazing. Thanks for your support. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next week.